Okay, I just ended the last video talking about using observe for anger. So I'll just finish that, and then we're going to move on to describe. When you are filled with anger, you're surrounded by anger, and it could lead you to be kind of mindlessly filled with anger. But then you activate yourself as an observing self. Then you have anger within you. You notice the sensations of anger. You notice the urges. You notice the intensity of it. As soon as you do that, you're at a different place than when you just experienced anger as in a mindless way. Now you're observing anger. In a sense, with your observer self, you can hold the anger, be aware of the anger, which can lead on to the use of other skillful ways to approach anger. And it changes everything in a moment. Changes everything in a moment. It's a miracle, okay? We're going to go on now to describing. Well, what's the difference between observing and describing? This is another thing to do. Describing is when you, using words, so you could do it with images, I would think, or drawings, or some other expressive modality. It's when you add on to what you've observed, or what you are observing. So, say I'm drinking a glass of water mindlessly. While I'm talking to you. You ask me later, did you drink a sip of water while you were talking? I say, no, I don't think so. But if I was observing, I'd probably say, yes, I did. I actually observed it. I'm observing the moistness on my lips. I'm observing the water entering my mouth and my tongue squishing it around and all of these other things. So I'm observing how warm or cold the water is and the nature of the glass. So the whole experience now, I'm observing. But as soon as I say all of those things I just said to you in order to convey what the experience was, I'm describing what I observed. One of the principles of, or I guess prerequisites for describing is you can only describe things you observe. Like you can't describe how somebody else feels. You can't describe what somebody else thinks. Unless they tell you what they think and then you just repeat it. But you can't say, so-and-so is angry. That's not describing because you haven't observed their anger. You may have observed their facial expressions and the words, and you've made an assumption that they're angry. But describing stays very close to the data, close to the facts. You acknowledge the facts of a situation. When you describe your own anxiety, you describe the awareness maybe of your heartbeat, the quickening of your breathing, the tendency to be a little sweaty or to have your hands be a little moist, the tendency to have thoughts that a catastrophe is coming. All of these are describers of facts that add up to the word anxiety in our lexicon. So describing keeps you close to reality, keeps you close to the facts, helps you not leap into assumptions or judgments and then believing them. That's the essence of it. If I walk, I can walk mindlessly, right? I could get up, walk across this room and walk back, maybe while I'm not thinking of it. I don't even know almost that I did it, or if I do know I did it, I don't know what I saw. Then I could observe while I walk, which is just receptively, I open my mind. I'm more aware. Then I could describe my walking. While I walk, I could describe putting my heel down and then moving to my toe and then pushing off and putting the other heel down, moving to my toe and pushing off. I could describe how the rhythm of my walking is in relation to the rhythm of my breathing. I could describe the whole feeling in my body of walking by giving you a detailed, factual description that keeps it away from judgment, away from interpretation, away from assumptions. If I really am upset with somebody and have intense judgmental feelings, thoughts about that person, I could shout to you about what I think of them in a judgmental way. Or I could restate that just in terms of factually, here's what this person's doing, here is what this person said, all of it being factual. Here's the tone that I detected in their voice. Here's how I felt in response to what they said. In other words, I could break it down into the factual ingredients that led me to my judgment, in which case you would have a more factual report and you wouldn't have to just accept my judgment or not. Observing can help you move towards wise mind just because it wakes up your mind. You actually are aware of reality. Reality inside, reality outside, rather than just coming to a mindless conclusion about things. Describing can help you stay close to reality, close to the facts, can settle down your emotions because it settles down your judgments, and it helps you sort of unpack what's going through you and describe it in a way that makes it easier to stay on ground level while you figure something out. The next skill is to participate. To participate is a different kind of relationship to an experience. If the experience of drinking this water, I can drink it mindlessly. I can drink it while observing. I'm just noticing sensation. I could describe the sensation of the water and the experience of the water. That's describing. To participate in drinking the water would mean, in a sense, without sounding too woo-woo about this, I become the water. The boundary between the water and me disappears, and my experience of drinking the water is that I'm completely immersed in just drinking the water. There's just one experience. It all comes together, and I am just totally in it. You can participate while singing a song if you deeply enter into the song, the words, the emotions, the spirit, the rhythm of the song. You can be the song, practically. You could listen to music by observing it, just letting it land in your head, in your brain. You could describe the music by describing patterns that you're hearing. And you can participate in the music by, in a sense, becoming the music. You might move with it or just feel yourself to be moving with it or be moved by it. And that's participating. And it's really letting yourself enter into an experience completely. You could have a conversation with somebody by observing what you're going through, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, describing all of those things. Or you could participate in a conversation where, in a sense, all inhibition, all keeping track, all rumination goes away, and you're just completely in it. There's like a dyadic cocoon, and you're just in a conversation, and it's carrying you wherever it goes. And maybe you've been in that kind of conversation sometimes when people first fall in love. It's characteristic, or they just click with a really good friend and they're having a long walk, just talking and talking and talking. So you can participate in a conversation. And why does participating help us get to wise mind? I don't have a great explanation for it, but I totally believe it, because if you enter completely into an experience, as if you kind of free up your mind. And maybe you're freeing up your mind to do one thing, but actually as your mind is freed, other things occur to you. You have a different relationship to the universe, to your thoughts, to your feelings, to what's going on, to the decisions you have to make. And by participating, things flow. They're flowing in you. Observing, things are just there and you're noticing, which can make you wiser. To describe, you see the realities, you're naming facts, you're staying away from judgments, which can help you become wiser. And when you participate, you're in the flow. And that flow, there's something that can come out of your own wisdom that only comes out in flow, in movement, in improvisation, let's say. It can make you more creative. You could be feeling many things and you're not sure what you're feeling. And maybe you're a person who goes on runs, and you go running, and after you get into the flow, and all there is you and the road and your body, and you're just running along almost unconsciously, participating in running. You may at that moment for the first time realize, oh my God, I know what's upsetting me. That conversation this morning with so-and-so, I forgot it took place, and suddenly there it is in your mind, and things start to make sense to you. So participate can sort of activate things in a different way. And for those of you who think that maybe DBT is too Buddhist oriented, because these skills are derived in part from Buddhism, though they're derived from other spiritual traditions as well, and non-spiritual traditions. But if you get worried, oh no, I'm practicing Buddhism and I don't want to, and I'm going to sit and meditate and observe things. In fact, ultimately, I would say the bias of DBT is to participate in life fully, as unself-consciously, and as skillfully as possible. Participate in relationships, participate in action, participate in your dreams and the dreams of others. It's just to really be in it and moving. And you resort to observing and describing as other modes as needed, but you move back towards participating. It would not be ultimately the goal of DBT, particularly to have people just sitting under a tree, being aware. All right, those are the 3 what skills. There's many examples of how to teach them in the manual. There's exercises and practices, way more than what I've mentioned. There's things you can lead your group to do together to learn these skills and to make it more interesting and engaging. And I suggest you try all those things and make up more, okay? I'm going to go on to one more skill before we stop this recording. The first how skill, non-judgmental. The most important point I could make about this skill is what it's not, because it's been so misunderstood. Non-judgmental does not mean that you forbid judgments, that you stamp out judgments, that you suppress judgments, that you chop off your judgments, and therefore you just have this kind, wise mind that never judges. No. It's assumed that you'll judge. You're a human being. So there's going to be judgments. There'll be judgments about anything. And judgments are when you've kind of gone a step removed from the facts and a step removed from just evaluating understandable consequences, and you're naming something, a bad name or a good name, and you're leaping. You're saying not just that, gee, that person's behavior has negative consequences for me and the world. You're saying that person's a jerk. That person's an asshole. Now you're in the land of judgment, obviously. Sometimes it's a little fine-tuned what's the difference between just evaluating and judging. But evaluating is part of skillful living. Among choices you're making, you evaluate the possible consequences. That doesn't mean you're judging them. But if you say, this one's really bad, this one's really good, this person's bad, this person's good, now you're probably in the realm of judging. And one of the problems with judging is just that it generates intense emotions that are a step removed from balance and grounding. And those emotions can then generate more judgments, can generate actions, can generate cognitions that then lead to distorted views of the universe. You're not having a still and accurate version of what's going on. So non-judgmental is to try to move back towards a still, accurate judgment. What's going on? How do I evaluate this? What are the consequences? What are the feelings? What are the thoughts? And so, therefore, you can drift down closer to wise mind if you're just letting judgments go. But your first way of doing that is observing that you're having a judgment. And once you observe that you're judging, that's the first step. Now you have to move from observing judging to letting you realize the judgments are judgments and they aren't facts, and not misinterpret that way. Okay, we'll go on in the next video.